Okay, we're recording.
Oh, are we? Okay.
Let's just do it right here or something like that.
How's that
there.
right
Not,
there?
I guess. I don't
Test,
know.
test.
That's not good. Okay. Gosh, I look like I just crawled out of bed. Go. Why don't you want to start it that way?
Because I had my hands like this right here. We've made it to the end of July, and what does that mean? Well, here goes another budget breakdown for our monthly travel budget.
And just to remind you all, we are fully retired. We sold everything to travel the world, and we are on a budget of $4,000 or hopefully less per month. Welcome back to Retire to Roam. I'm LJ.
And I'm Russell.
So let's get into it and see how we did. Okay, so looking at the month of July, and we're in 2025, we're just going to break it down by the major categories. The first category, which was the most expensive category, was actually our flights. Now, we have been in Europe for about 3 months now, and we're including the flight coming back to Guam. And we've already purchased that ticket, so that's why it's in the July budget. And we paid $1,433, and that's expensive. For a couple of reasons. Number one, it's expensive to get back to Guam, to or from Guam, wherever you're at, no matter what airline you're flying with. Secondly, the reason it's so expensive is it's going to be at the end of July, 1st of August when this happens, which is peak season. When we went over to Europe, it was probably half of that.
Yeah.
So we paid almost double for our tickets to return back to Guam. And again, if you don't know, we're in Guam because our son and daughter-in-law are stationed here, and we are basically staying with them as we're kind of a home base, I guess, for right now as we're traveling.
Right. So the next biggest expense that we're going to have, and anybody else when they travel or whatever and do these long stays, is going to be accommodations. And what did we spend on accommodations?
$1,329.62, so just a little bit less than what we did on our airfare. So $1,300.29 is not that much. I mean, it's more than if we had stayed in Southeast Asia, but we went to several countries during the month of July. We were in Poland, Hungary, the Czech Republic, Slovakia. So I know of 4 countries that we visited. So we did not do a full slow travel per se for the month of July, so that obviously increased our budget for our accommodations because we just didn't stay somewhere full time for the month.
I think the longest period we stayed was in Poland for the first 2 weeks of July, and the rest of it was travel back and forth trying to get back to the place where we're going to fly out of.
And if you research it, whether you're doing Airbnb or hotels, we do most of our bookings through booking.com, and you do get a better value if you stay that 28-day plus period, but it just didn't work out that we were able to do that because if you're in the European Union, or what they consider Schengen zone, you only have a 90-day window where you have to get out of that zone area. So we were about 80 plus days, I think, in that, so we had to get out, and we wanted to kind of make a loop. We'll put up a map now, kind of where we went, to show you where we started. We started in Hungary, and then we wound back up in Hungary. The reason being for that was it was just cheaper to fly back from Budapest to Guam versus some other smaller country. Our next category is groceries, and we actually spent $382 and change on that. We did do quite a bit of cooking in our apartments that we were renting, especially the ones that we were staying in longer term. The ones that we had just a couple of days or 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, we didn't buy a lot of groceries then. We maybe, done some lunch stuff or whatever there in the apartment, but the rest of it was basically eating out at restaurants.
Yeah, and like Russell said, if we were only there a few days, we might get some, baguettes or some croissants and lunch meat and cheese, and just kind of have a sandwich for breakfast or something. We try to do just 2 meals a day and maybe a snack, so definitely we would buy. Russell's kind of a Diet Coke addict right now, so he would buy those. I like the lemon teas, so we would buy those and keep them in the fridge. It's a lot cheaper to do that versus going out to a restaurant. In Europe, it's not unusual to pay $2.50 or $3.50 for a soda, even a water at a restaurant. So if you can do that in your apartment, it's definitely much cheaper. Another area that we spent more than normal this month was sightseeing, and we spent how much, Russell? $375, Russell.
$375. But yeah, if you've watched any of our videos, we talk about we don't do a lot of sightseeing, but we were in Poland, and you've known that I tell you that I'm a big history buff. But we were there, and I wanted to see Auschwitz, and we will have some of that video coming up later on too if you watch this channel. And by the way, click like and subscribe, and you'll be caught up with watching that video when it comes out. We did the salt mine while we were there. Two big attractions, and they were pretty costly, and but
yeah, that was probably over $300 of what we spent on the 375.
Right.
Was just those two events. But we knew we were going to do it. Those were not last minute decisions. We had planned on that for several months before we even went.
Yeah.
That was one of the main reasons for going to Poland. So we knew for sure we were doing Auschwitz, and then once we got there, before we got there, we decided we were going to do the salt mines as well, because we'd heard so many good things about it.
Right.
So again, that's kind of an unusual thing. We don't typically spend almost $400 a month on sightseeing, so that was an increase. The next category was restaurants. We spent $312. So if you include the restaurants and the groceries, we were just under $700 for the month, which I don't think is too bad. In Europe in the summertime.
And like I said, there was a little over 2 weeks there, 15, 16 days in the month of July, that we were fast traveling more than normal and eating, from the local Zabkas or whatever convenience stores, and just different snacks and stuff like that would be a little bit more.
The next category is transportation, and we spent $268 on that. Now that's not including airfare. So what was our transportation?
Well, we did use a taxi or two in some of the smaller towns when we were traveling, but a lot of it was getting from different spots, from different countries, and then within the country we used what they call a Flixbus, and pretty nice. It's similar, I guess you compare that to the Greyhound or whatever here in the United States, but it's a little bit, I think, a little more fancier, better bus or whatever, more comfortable, and really more economical to use than we had actually looked at trains and stuff like that.
In addition to the buses, we also, in a couple of areas, purchased like daily passes or weekly passes for the local transportation. Like in Budapest, we purchased a 7-day pass, even though we were only there for like 5 days, because it actually was cheaper to do a 7-day pass versus an individual day. Some of the other areas, we did like a 3-day pass on their transportation, which typically in Europe will get you their subway, their tram lines, and their bus lines. So whatever country you're in, you might want to check that out, and definitely compare the prices, the daily prices versus maybe a week pass or a 15-day pass. Okay, some of the other standard, we've just got...
be fixed monthly cost that we have every month. If we weren't traveling, we still got monthly cost. It might be cell phone, which like for Google Fi, church, some of the other stuff that we would do.
We've got a couple of streaming services that we pay for, that we bought last Black Friday, which honestly we have not used maybe a couple of times, and we've already talked about that. We're not going to continue those this coming year. We just haven't gotten the use out of them. And
things like VPNs, just just the eSIMs, just like stuff like that. This monthly cost that everybody's going to incur.
And I will say, one thing we don't put in our budget is our health insurance costs, because that is taken off the top of Russell's pension, so that doesn't come out of our expenses. So that's why that's there. So I guess the grand total, and what everyone really wants to know, and what it's killing me to say this, but we went over the $4,000 for the month of July. I assumed we were going to,
Yeah.
but boy, I really tried to keep us from doing it.
But that's the only month out of the what now it's 8 months now that we've been doing this full
Yeah.
time that we've ever went over the budget.
Our total expenses for the month was $4,437.85. So we were $437.85 over our monthly budget. And as Russell said, we've just completed our 7th month of full-time travel. This is the first time that we've even gotten close to the $4,000 mark. So we're still well under budget for the year. Our main goal is staying under the $48,000 for the year.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to be well below that for 2025. And so, yeah, that's where we're at. If any of you have any questions about our full-time travels, please be sure and leave us a comment. We really appreciate those of you who have reached out to us. We have a lot of new subscribers.
Yeah,
thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Some from Tennessee, actually. So shout out to our Tennessee friends.
Yeah.
And we hope you all have a wonderful month, a fantastic August. As always, thank you for watching. Have a blessed day and safe travels.